All right, good morning, everyone. So we're going to start off and just look at our calendar, just so you guys know what's left in the 3 remaining weeks that we have of school here. So if you're missing anything right away, I'll just kind of put that out there. This week should be the week that you're getting those things in. I updated my grades Thursday night, and then I didn't have time to do them over the weekend here. So if you submitted anything over the weekend, I will be grading that in the next day or two for sure, and we'll update grades. But you really want to focus on what are you missing, and if it's a test or a quiz, those are big ticket items. Those are a lot of points, so you want to get those in. But what do we got today? Today we're going to do, that's cool. I'll recalibrate. Today we're going to do a Desmos activity, learning about rational functions and how A, H, and K affect this new graph. The nice thing is A, H, and K is very, very similar to what it was when we learned it with roots, square roots, cube roots, as well as quadratics. And there's a little bit of review in that. On Wednesday, this is kind of an important day here, just for a couple reasons. I will not be here on Wednesday. We're going to have a sub. And I already pre-made a video. I think it's like 12 minutes long, and it's meant where you're going to press play, you'll watch, you'll look at it, and we'll get to a problem, then you're expected to hit pause, work through the problem, and then hit play to see the answer revealed. And it's just a couple of problems to review for our test on Friday. We have another little mini test that's worth 30 points on rational functions. The video that I made for Wednesday goes over what's on it, how many questions, and everything else. All right, so that'll prepare you. There's a link in Schoology. Those of you who are on Zoom for Wednesday, you do not have to show up to Zoom class. It's going to be an asynchronous learning day for you. I should say just for our hour. But you do have to engage from 8:10 until you're done. So you do have to show up on time just to get attendance. And in Schoology, there's a question, an attendance question that just says, something, answer this question to get attendance. So please make sure that you're doing that. And then Ms. Drury will be our sub. She's, I don't know if you've ever come in here on first hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays. She's in here, so she knows math. She can help you answer any questions. But there will not be a Zoom class on Wednesday for those of you learning from home. And then the test on Friday will be Schoology based, so you just go ahead and take that on Friday. And then the next important thing here is what about this next week? We're going to introduce a Desmos project. So it's kind of a cool project where you could use the things we've learned this trimester and create an image on Desmos using math equations. And we'll show you and explain how that's done, and you'll get an idea of it. We have some things we'll talk about, and then we'll have a work day that next week, and then the project is due on Friday. And then we're done. We're not really going to have finals. Our final is this Desmos project right here. So that last week is we're going to have I won't see you guys on Monday because of Memorial Day, so I'll see you for one last day. And it's really going to be a quick check-in. Here's your a quick survey about the class. Is there anything missing? If I need to talk to individuals, I'll pull you out in a breakout room and say, hey, this is where you're at. You have this last opportunity to do something about your grade. But hopefully, you're all thinking about getting your missing work done this week, so then you have a more relaxing last 2 weeks of the year. So we are coming up on the end very, very closely, or quickly. Textbooks. If you brought your textbook today, we can make a trip this afternoon to the library and return it, or you can just stop by the library at any time, scan it, and then collect it. So you can do that. Those of you who are learning from home, if you want to get ahead of the game and you're coming into Tartan at any point in the next week or two, bring your math textbook, especially if you still have a geometry one. Bring the Algebra 2 and the Geometry 1 in, go to the library, they'll check it in, and you're good. So I just want you to know exactly what's left, and keep in mind, these 3 weeks aren't really full weeks, right? It's going to happen quick. So think about your other classes if you're missing anything in there or your grade isn't where it needs to be. See what you can do, and it has to really start this week. Okay? All right, so today, our goal, before you jump right into it, our goal is to review rational functions in the Desmos activity. I want to make one quick explanation before we go. Jump right into it. You're going to learn the general form here as we get to it, but it has A, H, and K. And what I noticed on the last test we took, when we gave you that question about describe the effects A, H, and K has on a graph, some kids wrote the very general, basic description. What we mean is if there's a number here in the A, we want to know exactly what it's doing. If there's a number here for the H, we want to know exactly what it's doing. What direction does it move the graph, and by how many units? So don't just say generically, it moves the graph up, or it shifts it horizontally. That's too vague. We need really graphic descriptions, meaning it moves the graph 5 units to the left. So it tells me how long and what direction. So just think about that as you're going through this experience. You've already signed up for our class, so you don't really have to type in this class code, but if you go to students.desmos.com, there should be an activity titled Graphing Rational Functions, A, H, and K 2021. And we're going to click through that. And then at the end of the hour, we have one last slide here. Actually, we got 2 last slides that are going to recap what you should have learned throughout this activity. So that's the goal right now. Those of you on Zoom, I would like you to stay on Zoom because we're going to come back together at the end of the hour. But right now, your goal is just to engage in that activity and let me know if you're having any issues with it. I can answer questions as we go along. Okay, so next week, you're going to have a blank Desmos screen. And let me just show you what we did to kind of write these things out. So make sure your eyes are up on the screen right now. But if I want to type in y equals, and I'm going to do the general form, I'm going to do y equals a over x minus h plus k. And notice how when I typed in an equation, it had y and x in it, but it had a, h, and k. And those are the variables that we're exploring today. Well, when I type in those letters, it says, do you want to make those sliders? And if I click all, it turns each one into a slider, and that's kind of what you guys had seen was already pre-set up. So that might be something you explore next week, and I'll share more next week with that. But let's do a quick recap of what does A, H, and K do with this whole piece. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move H to 0 and K to 0. And that's our general, that's our parent function right here. So when A is 1, notice if A is 0, that doesn't give me anything. So they can't all be 0. But when A is 0, or excuse me, when A is 1, that's our parent function. And this is the graph that we compare everything else to. So when we say the function moves left or right, we're comparing it to this original function. And actually, you know what? I'm going to do one extra thing that this is not super important for you guys to know. But I'm going to put the asymptotes in quick. And I mean, maybe you're seeing what I'm doing here with editing, and you might play around with this next week anyway, so maybe it's a good thing, maybe not. Let's see if that all works. Okay, so here I got my dotted lines. Those are my asymptotes. What does the A value do? Well, when A gets larger, what I noticed in the response is some people are saying it changes the slope. Be very careful when you use the word slope. The idea is right on. You have the right idea. Slope is the same pattern, so rise over run, so it's a consistent pattern. This doesn't have that consistent linear pattern, but I think when you say slope, I know what you mean, but just be very careful. So what does A do? A, notice how it pulls it further away from the 0, 0 origin, or the intersection of the horizontal and vertical. A is making that increase faster, so it's a vertical stretch. Now, when A is less than 1, so some fractions, see how we got like 0.4? Now we're getting closer, so it's actually a vertical shrink. But then as you guys experience, what happens when A is negative? The negative reflects it over up and down. It reflects it over this y-axis, or excuse me, x-axis. So it's a reflection over the x-axis. Now officially, the A value is applied first, and then we move things left and right. So that's why we always say it's reflected over the x-axis. So the original branch of the hyperbola flips down here, and then this one that was down in this quadrant flips up. And then notice as A is negative, the larger the negative value, it still has that vertical stretch. It's pulling it away from this center spot. So that's the value of A. Let's just put A back at maybe, let's do 4. So then what does H do? Now the important thing with H is you have to be really careful. If I move this so H, did I label this wrong? I did. Not a great angle to see. Let's try that. There we go. So notice how H moves the graph left to right, and we want to be very specific. So what we mean is if I have a positive 2 for an H, right, that moved it 2 units to the right. However, if it was plugged into the equation, it would say x minus 2. And that's the part that I think kids were missing, is that this H is what number would go in here. So the equation would read x minus 2. So then if I go further, it keeps going to the right. But what happens if H is negative? If H is negative, then it moves it to the left. However, it would read x minus negative 5, which would really be written as x plus 5. So that's the part, if the equation is written, it's always opposite of what you think it should be for H. Okay, K value is exactly what you think it is, because see how it says plus K in the equation? So then if K value is positive, the entire graph shifts up. Notice this line right here is a horizontal asymptote. An asymptote is a graph that our line will approach but never cross. So H controls the horizontal asymptote, sorry, I said that wrong. K controls the horizontal asymptote. H controls the vertical asymptote. And if K is negative, then it's going to shift everything down. And that was the goal here. But notice as I was describing it, I said it shifted left a certain amount of units. So we were very specific on how the movement works. It's not just that it moved to the left or to the right or up or down. It was how far with how many units. And that's the idea we wanted you to get away from today. So you don't have to write this down. I have it in our, I think this is in the review notes. I will post a PDF of this if you want it. But in general, you should know what AH and K do based off of what we did from the last unit to this unit. If A is negative, that does cause a reflection over the x-axis. And then the only other thing is, how do we draw? So what I'd like you to try right now is do a sketch. Now here's the thing. We're just doing a very rough sketch, which means our points are not going to be accurate, but can you create a very rough sketch of these points? And I'll give you maybe... So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at, all right, let's think about this plus 6. X plus 6, well, that's the H, but it's opposite of what we think. So if I had a vertical line, originally at the origin, that's going to shift everything 6 units. I can't see greatly here, so I might just... It's too small. Does that look like 6? I can't see. So let's pretend that's 6. I might just write negative 6 here. So I shifted everything negative 6 units to the left. And then we're going to take the K value. The K value is negative 2. So it's going to take the original horizontal asymptote and shift everything down 2 units. 1, 2. All right. So that gets your horizontal and vertical asymptote. So I would label this, my vertical asymptote is at the equation x equals negative 6. And then the horizontal asymptote is at the equation y equals negative 2. And notice, your vertical asymptote is the exact same thing as your h value. Your horizontal asymptote is the exact same thing as your k. So now the only other thing I have to think about is, what does this a value do to the graph? Well, it's negative, so it's going to reflect it down. So it's going to be in this quadrant here and this quadrant here, and then 3 is going to make it go further apart. This is where we're not going to get too particular, because yes, these are not perfect points. To get perfect points, we'd have to test the x values, but we're doing a very rough sketch. So your graph is going to look something like that. All right. So let's try this with the next one. So now I have x minus 3. So my h value is positive 3, which means I'm going to move over 3 units. And we're going to put a dotted line at 3. And then my k value is plus 4. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. You can tell my smartboard's off a little bit. I have to recalibrate. So there's my horizontal asymptote at y equals positive 4. And then we have a positive a value, but it's going to be closer. So I'm just going to draw this a little bit closer than I think I would normally. And that's all we really want you to get away from today, is you should, when you see an equation, you should be able to kind of picture that in your head of this is what it looks like. All right, so really quick, I want to just talk about homework. When you finish the Desmos activity, I just unpaused it. Put a comment in Schoology. There's a discussion post that just says, hey, I'm done, check my Desmos, and that way I can give you points for it. Work on missing homework tonight. If you would like, you can start the Chapter 8 review assignment in Delta Math. And then just a reminder, my gradebook closes for all late work on Thursday, May 27th. So start plugging away. The end of the year is coming up very quickly. And remember, those of you on Zoom, Wednesday is going to be a sub day, so you do not have to attend class, but you have to complete the work during our class time. Adios. Have a good day.